Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here. I know we're about 20 minutes behind. I normally have it at 3 o'clock. I don't have no idea, but it wound up saying 3:20. But I did send out a little message to let you know that we were running about 20 minutes. But everything is good, and Deb was on time. She wanted to make sure that I told you that it wasn't her that was late. It was me. So I'm glad that you're here. My name is Adele Shortino. I am the host of Artist to Artist Talk Show and the owner of A for Artistic online class. We are so excited to have Deb here, and she will be sharing some tips and tricks about photography. I already see some people coming in. Hi, Robin, Gabriella, thanks for being here. Susan, great that you're here. Leanne, hi, Leanne. Well, I think you are just going to be so absolutely amazed by the information that Deb is going to be sharing, and also showing you a nice presentation so you can have a visual of what she's talking about. She will also be offering a PDF that we will post in the group, well, not in the group, but in the comments after the show, and that way you'll have something to download and be able to refer back to. Hey, Carol, I'm glad you're here. Well, we are going to get this going because we do have a big show today, and we want to make sure that we get everything up and running. And we have Deb. Hey, Deb, how are you?
Hi.
So,
Hi, Deb.
hey, Deb, we got some people already in here. I don't know if you can see them, Deb. We have Robin, Carol, Leanne, Susan, and Gabriella. So far, they're
Hi,
coming.
ladies. Hi. Welcome to my nest.
Yeah, she's got a nice studio in there where she does all of her magic. It's unbelievable how organized she is. I'm just always amazed.
Yeah, it's from floor to ceiling in here. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Little room.
Well,
I'm
Deb,
happy to be here.
I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you have put this presentation together for us. I know there is a big need to learn more about taking pictures, and you have been doing this for a while, and also you have been teaching it on A for Artistic on how to take pictures, digital pictures of their art for publication and also to offer it on the internet.
Right. It's it's practice. It's more than anything. It's learning your camera and then practicing and finding out what works in different settings. And before we came online, I was joking with you, Adele, and I said I'm going to give them the great, big, deep secret to taking pictures digitally. Here it is. Drum roll. You have to have great lighting, and you have to hold the camera still. That's it. That's all there is.
Okay.
Hold the camera still.
All right, guys. That's the end of the show. We're not going to talk about this anymore.
Yeah. But really, it truly is. The answer to good photography is lighting. It's just that in a nutshell. And I mentioned holding the camera still only because as I've gotten older, it's a little harder for me to keep my camera really steady. You can still get a really good picture, but the difference between taking a picture with your hands and with a tripod is incredible. You don't believe that you're shaking the camera a tiny little bit when you're pushing the shutter button, but you are. Yeah. And even just that little bit of vibration in the camera when you push the shutter button down, when you go like this, moves the camera. Look at the reflection on the when I'm pushing. You can just see it. You see the camera? You see it's just a little bit. That's all it takes to make an image more blurry than it would be if it was on a tripod.
You're absolutely right, Deb. It makes a world of difference using either a tripod on the table or a tripod, that stands on the ground. Makes a big difference.
Right. So what I did for today's show, Adele, was I put together an outline, and you've been gracious enough to put these photographs together so I can show the listeners and the viewers what I'm talking about when I'm talking about different settings. To start out with, people have asked me about my camera, and here it is. This camera is old now. It's probably about 6 years old. It's a Panasonic Lumix camera. And it's what's considered a bridge camera. So it's really nothing special other than the lenses are built in. So I'm not interchanging lenses. I've got those cameras too in 35 millimeter, but for digital photography, I've always used the fixed lens sort of camera. In the tips document that Adele will post in the comments later, I do give information on this camera and also the newer models. This is a 200. My old camera, I had the same camera in a 50 that I bought, oh gosh, it must have been 15 years ago. And I bought this one about 5 years ago because I literally, you know how they've got rubber over the buttons on them in places? I had worn the rubber off. And I thought, you know what, this camera's going to die on me, and then what am I going to do? So I went ahead, and because I was so happy with that Lumix camera, I went ahead and bought the newer model. But as I said, now this is a 200, and this one is an old one. Now there's the 80 and the 300 and the 1000 are out there. And they're all, this one was about $700 when I bought it. Now you can get it for $299 if you find one. Okay?
Yeah,
so it doesn't take, yeah, it's, and you, Adele was so, can I tell him? Adele was so happy with my camera, and you've got, what have you got, a Canon?
I have a Canon with all the interchangeable lenses.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you were seeing what I got with my camera, you trotted right out and bought one just like this. So you've got the 200 also, don't you?
I do. And one thing that I did like about that camera is the lens is a Leica lens, which is a very clear lens. And
right.
I love that camera.
The Leica lens is one of the finest lenses made. And this particular camera has that, like the Leica lens. I mentioned that in the outline too. The newer cameras, the 80 doesn't have it, but the 300 did, I think, and the 8 and the 1000 did. But the less expensive ones of this one does not have the Leica lens anymore. It just is how the lens is ground. It's the quality of the glass in the lens.
Right.
So, if anybody's got any questions about the camera or anything else as we're going along here, please feel free to post your questions. Also, I want to show you this. You might wonder what this is all about here. I have a strap, a camera strap that's detachable with these little clips like this. Well, because it's rare that I'll put my camera around my neck, but when I'm going outside to take pictures, it's so easy to drop your camera. So I keep one side on here, and this is like my little handle, so it's like a lanyard. So this is how I take my camera when I'm going outside so I don't accidentally drop it, which I have done, by the way, and it still works.
Well, that's not good.
No. It's never good to drop your camera.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop down into the green room, and I'm going to go ahead and start your presentation, Deb, and that way we can get, I know they're anxiously waiting, and if there's any questions, I'll put them up on the screen for you.
Sounds good. Okay, so this first picture is of my desktop tripod, and you can see the overall height there is just over 12 inches tall, and that's with it extended up a little bit. I think a desktop tripod is an invaluable asset to have. I've also got, tripods to put on the floor. I've got those out in the garage studio, which you'll see in a little bit, and I also have a nice tripod out in the sunroom, which you'll also see in a little bit. But this desktop tripod will be, the links for this information will be given to you in that document. But this is just a fabulous tool to have on your desktop if you're taking pictures of your work, when your work in progress, pictures in progress. Okay, I see a question here. I don't seem to get the fine details on my dolls when I take pictures on the macro setting. You can experiment with taking a macro, or you can just take regular images. The trick to it is to figure out what you need to do with your camera. With this Panasonic camera that I have, I can get within 3/4 of an inch of the subject and take a close-up picture. That way the lens is not extended out at all. It's tight. The frame is tight, and I can get right up next to the item, and you can get a really good close-up that way. That's where you're going to get your sharp detail. I don't know about the macro setting. That shouldn't, you should be able to get really sharp detail with macro setting. I would think that might have more to do with your lighting. Okay, no, this is something that I show how to do in the photography class that I teach. This is simply foam core cut and taped together into a triangular configuration like you see here. One side has more of an angle and the other side is straighter. And this is what I use to bounce light. So if I'm taking pictures out in the sunroom, you can see that here. You can see how she's got, the light is reflecting on her chest. The light is coming from behind her, but because of the way the picture needed to be taken, I had to have light bouncing in front of her as well. So by placing this foam core light bounce, what do you want to call that? Tripod thing. I don't know what I want to call that. I just call it my light bounce. I put that in front of her like that. It's freestanding, and so that will hold its place, and the light will bounce right off of that and onto her face. Then I think this one shows. So this, you can see by looking at this picture, you can tell that the light is coming from behind her. The light source is behind her because it's reflected on her arm, but otherwise her face would be in the dark. Her face would be shadowed, but by doing it this way, you can see that I get light from both sides. This is a portable backdrop that I use when I'm teaching my classes. I will photograph myself doing work in progress. And so this is just gray watercolor or gray paper. I buy it at Hobby Lobby or the craft stores. And then again, that background is the form that's holding it is foam core. And then just a simple cord along the side pinned into the foam core holds that into an upright position. And by not creasing the paper, you see at the bottom how it's curved, this helps the light bounce there too and gives an uninterrupted background. So if you're taking your pictures inside and you want a neutral background, this is something that will help you. Okay, now this picture, this shows out in the sunroom. This is where I was out bouncing light on the Night Circus figure a minute ago. This is called a flow tone background. And I bought this just this year. It's the first time I've invested in one of these. They're kind of expensive. And again, the link for this will be in the document that you'll get in the comments. I bought it on Amazon, and the trick to using one of these is to get it displayed in such a way that the background is uninterrupted and curved like that. This actually is such a great tool because what this does is it creates its own light source. If you notice, the bottom is white and the backdrop is black, and there's that gradient in the middle. That is gives the appearance of a lot more light than there really is. And so these are a great asset to have. In the pictures that you'll be seeing down the road here, you'll see where this particular background has been put to good use. Now, when I do take pictures out in the sunroom like that, I do use a floor tripod too. So here's the dryad. She was taken against that flow tone background. And at the bottom of that, okay, and this was the same background with a different setting on my camera. So talking about settings, the first picture, the one before this, yes, that one was taken with priority setting. And then the next one was taken with intelligent auto. So this is where the camera is compensating for the lower light conditions in the sunroom and letting the camera let in more light. So the apertures were changing for that one. Again, this was turning her towards the window. I guess what I should talk about is natural lighting. Your answer to great photography is always going to be natural lighting. So if you can set yourself up in such a way that you can take your pictures in natural light, even though in my case I'm indoors, but I want to have this great light coming from those windows in the sunroom, bouncing off my figures. That's where you get these great pictures with natural. The piece just appears to glow. This mermaid was taken against the flow tone background. She's got natural light coming in off of her shoulder towards the side where her hair is, so on the left side of the picture. And so on her face is natural light. And yep, there again, a little bit. Okay, now that one would be, this is, let's see, this would be with the priority setting, just so the picture itself is a little darker. The one just before it was, that was intelligent auto. So in other words, I'm allowing my camera to determine what light settings I need there. It also adjusts the white balance for you. This is with a little bit more light. So you see she's got quite a bit of light reflecting off of her hair, and there's just a tiny bit of shadow on the flow tone background. You see the shell is sort of reflected there. That's about as much natural light or sunlight that I will allow into the photograph. Otherwise, it gets too washed out. So you want light, but you don't want direct sunlight. Okay, this is an image here. The A was taken in my garage studio where I have studio lights set up. So this was taken like at midnight. Seriously, there's times when I don't have the ability to take pictures in natural daylight. So I'll go out into the garage studio and take pictures out there. It's still a decent picture, and that's with a black background. And B was to give you the comparison between those two. So the natural light is photo B in the sunroom during the day, and A was taken in the garage studio. It flattens the image out. You can see the color on her chest, for example, is sort of washed out, but it's still a decent picture. Okay, that's the same thing. Now A is taken in the garage studio photo setting. I'll show you pictures of that in a bit. And then B was taken in the sunroom against the flow tone background. So it just depends on what you're looking for and what you want in your photography. Now A would be a great picture for, like, if you were going to be juried into an art show, you might want to use a picture like A, because that's going to show the work a little better, whereas B's got more shadow and there's lots of things going on there that's bouncing around on the picture itself, on the subject itself. So A would be a better picture for submission into a portfolio or for juried into a show. Okay, so here we are in my backyard. I live in Nirvana. I really do. These are the gardens in my backyard, and if you notice, there's a privacy fence there, so everything is very sheltered and protected in my backyard. And what I'm showing you here is this goofy little table that I have that I roll around in my backyard until I find just the right place for the lighting. Now, if you notice, the day is overcast. There's no sun on that day, but I needed to get some good pictures of the dryad, so I hauled her out in the backyard and I put her on my table. And I also tore some ferns out of the garden and put that on the table to cover up the table itself, and put her there so that she can have her picture taken. Yep, here she is. So this is on that day. It's a little bit washed out, but that's because I didn't have sunlight that day. There wasn't really enough sunlight, so it's a little bit washed out. But you notice by standing back and then zooming in on her, so I changed the aperture setting on the camera. The background is all blurry, but she's nice and sharp. So earlier there was a question about using the macro setting. That wouldn't have been a macro setting. That would have been just normal settings on the camera and me standing way back and then zooming in. Because when you zoom in, your depth of field changes and the background gets blurry, which is what you want. Here's another place in my yard that I go to. I love this area right here. This is facing my neighbor's house. And so this is into the woods, but you see that hollow in the woods there where it gets very deep, and then the green of the leaves in the foreground. This makes a great background for photography for me. So I'll bring my table over here and I set the item there. And on this day now, you'll see there's more, the sky is more blue, so there's more sunlight, but it's not direct sunlight. So what's going on with her is that she's got sun rays, but not direct sunlight. And so I take pictures of her with the sun glowing on her, sun rays, but not direct sunlight. And so I end up with an image like this. And so she's, all that amber color is not really her. This is more of an aesthetically attractive picture, but it's not necessarily a realistic picture. She's more green than that, but that sun bouncing like that, and then that, what you see around her, that dark, dark, dark background, that's actually that area in the woods where I can take those pictures. So I'm taking a picture of the woods in the background. Same thing, different angle. Okay, now this is another spot that I go to in my yard, and this is on the other side of my house. This is my hosta garden, And there's a tree stump there that I had the guys leave so I could use it as a pedestal for photography. So by placing her on that and then getting the lighting, I love the lighting. This is an evening picture, so I can do this at around 6 or 7 o'clock at night in the summertime. Again, it's slightly overcast, not real bright sunshine, just enough lighting to make that work. So then by putting her there and then getting the camera set up, I'll stand back and zoom in on her, and let's see what the next picture is there, Adele. That's still, there's my house in the background. Okay, so here's we go. This is what I'm starting to get now in that setting at that time of night. Yeah, there we go. So that's that subtle evening light with those trees in the background and me standing back. I'm probably back about 12 feet from her, and then using my zoom on the camera to get a tighter shot, and that changes the depth of field so that the background gets blurry. I love her. I love her. She's so fun. Anyway, so by putting her in that woodland setting like that, it really helps to, you got to consider too when you're taking your pictures, is this a piece, is this a fairy? Does it belong in the garden? Is it a mermaid? Should you be taking pictures around water? Yeah, so those are just all taken on that same day in those different settings with the light that I had available to me naturally. Okay, this last picture, I just wanted to show you this. Sometimes people will say to me, well, I don't have a place to take pictures. And I understand that. This was taken on that same day with just the grass in the background. And I know sometimes that's all you've got is grass. This, to me, wouldn't be satisfactory. I wouldn't use this picture. But if I didn't have anything else, I would try to make that work for me by just standing way back and zooming in so that the green of the grass, you couldn't actually make out that it was grass. It would just be a soft green background. Okay, here we've got Wink. Now Wink is back in that same part of the woods again. You see my goofy little table, and I put him in that same hollow, so he's there, and then put ferns around him so you can't tell. And then here he is. And by letting a little bit of light dance across his face, what I was hoping for when I was taking pictures of Wink was to make it look like a little boy was really out sitting by the pond and actually fishing. So that was my goal there. And I thought this worked really well. He's got a little bit of sun dancing across his body and his shirt. His face is not overexposed. And there he is. I wanted to show this picture too because this was taken not with a macro, but just by standing back and zooming in. And you can see the pixels in his eyes there. I mean, you can literally make out every detail of his face and his eyes. But that was because the lighting was just right. Yeah, thank you, Adele. This was interesting, and I wanted to share this with you. Her name was Thadia, and she was really an interesting piece. This was from several years ago. And when I put her outside, her coloring, the white and the blues in her setting was just not right to have a green background. So I had a canvas background in those days, and I had painted this canvas background. And I took her outside, and I set her up just like I did with the others on the table. But I used my stand to hold the canvas background, and I took her pictures outside. So this is natural lighting outdoors, but using a canvas background so that it looks like she's indoors and in a photo setting. I thought that really accented her much better than had I done it anywhere else. She needed the natural light. So this shows you the canvas background. I can't see that full shot, Adele, but I do think that's the one where it shows where you can see that I'm actually outside. Is that right? I'm going to show you a couple of tricks with her later too, on using the Photoshop to protect yourself from getting the nipple Nazi after you. This was taken in the snow outside. This was the Ice Queen, and that's the trees in my yard in the background covered with snow. I thought that made a great background for her. So sometimes you just have to use what you've got. But again, if you're getting the gist of what my conversation is about, it's using natural light. Natural light is what you want to photograph your artwork, if at all possible. This one was taken in the screen porch. I love this picture, and I put it in here just as a random shot because if you notice, the focus is just slightly off, and that was intentional. I have the focus on her wings. Her wings were what was clearly in focus, and then she was blurry. But I just thought it made a great, interesting picture. This one, too, was taken in that same part of my yard where Wink and the Dryad were taken against the woods, with just a little bit of light dancing off the top of her flower so that she looks like she's really in the woods. This is one of my flower fairies, and this was taken against a white background, and then I think I've got some more pictures of her just to show the difference. Yeah, here she is with a black background. Now sometimes you'll have to decide what works best for you, if you like the white background, if that shows the colors in your figure better, or if the black. Now see, for me, this one, the white shows her wings, but this one is this shows her wings, but this black picture is a more attractive, aesthetically pleasing picture. Here she is outside, again, with her being a fairy. I thought, well, let's see what she looks like taking her picture outside. But you see what's happening here is there's too much sunlight that day. See the sunlight on her face? That's causing reflections. And so I decided, nope, today is too bright. Can't be outside today. I wanted to show you this. This is my garage setup. This is this is my indoor nighttime, desperate for pictures. It's midnight. I need pictures by tomorrow morning setup. So this is a black background. I also have other backgrounds I use out in the garage, but those are those photo studio lights. They're not expensive. This was not an expensive set, but you see there's 3 of them. There's one that lights from above, and there's 2 that come in from either side. You want to set your lights up so that they come in at 45-degree angle from either side of your subject when you're taking pictures. They're also a little bit close. I usually move them out a little bit more than what you see in this picture. And that lint roller is there for a reason. Yes, here's your lint roller. Please, people, when you're submitting pictures for jurying or into a portfolio or any kind of presentation, if you're entering one of my shows at IADR, make sure that you get all the lint and cat hair and crud off the background of your image, your pictures, because it shows. And what that shows is if you've got lint or hair or wrinkles, it shows a lack of caring, and that's not a good reflection. You don't want that sort of presentation for your artwork. You want to have as professional a presentation as you possibly can have. So make sure that you get all the lint and press your background so that there's no wrinkles. It just shows in a more professional way, especially if you're doing a juried show. This picture was taken out there with those studio lights. Like I said, this would be acceptable for a juried show or entering into, trying to get something entered into, like sort of a magazine entry. However, I will say too this, Adele can confirm this, if you were doing a printed magazine like Contemporary Doll, I think they tend not to like black backgrounds because it takes up a lot of ink to print those, and sometimes they get smeared. So keep that in mind if you're submitting to a magazine that's going to be printed in a hard copy, that you might not want to use the black background. The gray background, the photo gray background, is much better.
Deb, I'm just going to pop in here while you were talking about these black backgrounds. What happens is when you go to press, it's hard when you're trying to regulate the ink. When you're printing, what happens is if you compensate for the black background, you're not compensating for the beautiful color in the piece itself. So that is one of the reasons why when they're asking for pictures is to give them either a very light background, like gray, or white background works the best, because there's full focus on the picture versus, having to adjust for that background.
Yep. Can you hear me, Adele?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. I knew there was a reason for it, and I've heard that before, that the printed materials aren't fond of the black background. I think it's a dynamic, sharp image, but it depends on where you're going to be using it. Like I have black on my business cards. but I don't have any imagery of my artwork on my business cards. So I think it depends on where you use it, but I do know that anything that's going to be submitted, you're better off with a more neutral background.
Right. You want full focus on your figure. That's for sure. I also wanted to comment. I wanted to comment about Debbie that had said something about the macro setting. The one thing about macro setting, if you use macro setting, you definitely have to use a tripod because the camera becomes very sensitive at macro setting. If you think it's moving at the regular, pulling your lens all the way in, but when you have it set on macro, I mean, you can breathe and you're completely out of focus.
Right.
So like you said, it's better to pull the lens back in and walk up to your piece versus setting that macro lens.
One thing too, as long as you're talking about that, is that sometimes when you pull the lens in and walk up to the piece and stand very close to the piece and take pictures, what happens is you almost get a fisheye sort of a little bit of distortion in the photo.
Yes.
And it ends up like somebody will take a picture of a piece, or I take a picture of my own work and I'll think, my gosh, her hands look big. Well,
right.
They're not too big, but because they are the closest thing to the lens, it makes them appear larger than they are. So you want to keep that into consideration too when you're taking pictures, especially close up. But yeah, that talking about macro and when I talked about, you know, the secret to great pictures is lighting and hold your camera still. The slightest little bit of flicker in your camera, and your camera's going to take a good picture, but it's going to be sharper if the camera doesn't move. Oh, which reminds me, I should talk about the remote switches too. I don't know if a remote switch is something that you can attach to your camera, and you can stand back and use the trigger to take the picture. That way you're not touching the camera at all, and that's where you're going to get your best pictures.
Right. Yeah. It's just super important to keep that camera steady, even if you hold your breath. I know. You know, sometimes I hold my breath. It doesn't matter. I still the minute
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
As soon as you touch the button, you're jiggling the camera ever so slightly, just touching the button. And I don't think people realize just how much they're doing that. And for everyday pictures, or if you've got, you know, grandma and the kids and everybody's, no, it's no big deal. It's, you know, you got a great picture, it's okay. But when you're taking close-ups of your artwork and you want sharp detail, you have to use a tripod.
Absolutely.
So I've even set my camera on a can, you know, like tomato juice. I went and got the tomato juice and used that to set my camera on that so I could take a close-up picture of something and not have it jiggle.
Yeah, anything to keep it steady, that's for sure. I'll bring your presentation back up, Deb.
All right. Yep, so again, these were taken in the garage at night. And like I said, if I have to take pictures and I've got to have them for the next day, I will go out there and use that setting. It is a little harder to get things just right out there, though. Also, by the way, I should tell you that I'm standing, my car is next to this. So my car is off to my left shoulder, and I'm standing almost where the trunk is. And that photo setup is in the front of the car. So in the front of where the car is parked. So it's a long ways away that I'm zooming in and taking these pictures. Okay, this is still out there in the garage. Now I just popped in a piece of gray mat board and took pictures with that. So that's what that looked like. So again, this is the studio lighting. This is another idea for you. If you might notice on some people's images, they have what looks like outdoors, but you probably have figured out they're not outdoors. These are poster art, and this one, I don't know that I took pictures of any of the other ones, but this is one of the seascape that I have. And there's my secrets are out. So you can see I've got her propped up. It's just a vase, and I put her on top of that, and then I'm taking pictures of her by closing in on her. She sort of looks like she's against the seascape. You can play with that and have some fun with that. I've also included links to the poster art in the document that you'll get. So there's some really cool, yeah, here's one that I've got, the dryad is in front of. Now this one I don't care for because the background is so busy. But I think I've got some other ones in this slideshow that are better. This is one that I really, really like. If you notice the picture, the poster has what looks like sunlight coming down through the trees. And so this is taken out in the garage now. So she's got studio lighting on her face, but the background gives the false appearance of sunlight, or muted sunlight, I should say. So that was just some fun stuff. Again, like I said, if you don't have outdoor settings, you don't have a place to take pictures, and you want to have your pictures appear that they're outdoors, this is the way to do that. One thing I will say too, in the past, I sold a lot of work on eBay from 2004 to 2011. And what my customers wanted to see, and it was fairies and that sort of thing. Fairies and mermaids were mostly the most popular things. They wanted the pieces to be photographed in a natural setting. The buyers wanted to build a story in their own minds of what that piece was, or what the story was related to that figure. And so that's why my outdoor photography became very important to me, because I wanted to help perpetrate that fantasy for them by having the pictures be outdoors instead of just against like a gray background. But for anything that would be professionally presented, anything presented professionally, you want that neutral background. Gabriella's got a question. What do you think of the odd day light bulbs in place of regulars for photos? I tried all kinds of different light bulbs, Gabriella. I tried every kind of light bulb there was, and from the Reveal, the blue bulbs, the floodlights. I know that Ott puts out a daylight bulb. I can't say that I was overly impressed with any of them, to tell you the truth. What's in the ones out in the garage are like I don't know that they're Ott lights, but they are the CFLs, those curly, what do you call them? Are they CFL? Is that what the spiral bulbs are? That's what's inside those light tents, and they are, I think there's 4 of them in each one. They're huge. There's a lot of light coming out of there. And they need to warm up. They're just like a fluorescent tube that needs to warm up to get to its brightest potential. But yeah, I've tried, I can't tell you how many lights I've tried trying to get just the right indoor lighting. I quit trying, because what happens is you have to adjust the white balance on your camera to adjust for that. My camera has daylight, cloudy, sunlight, auto, and then it also has for tungsten lighting, which is the indoor light bulb lighting. Typically what happens is they turn everything yellow. These were taken out in the garage with the studio lights, these pictures that are showing right now. I love this picture too. This one was taken in under a skylight at my mom's house. She had a skylight in her bathroom, and I could put my pieces up underneath the skylight, so it was natural lighting coming in from above, and then using one of those poster backgrounds. I forgot I put this one in there. That would have to do, Debbie's asking a question about the legs look shorter than they are. That's because of the angle that you're taking the pictures at, Debbie. You've got to try to get the pictures taken straight on. If you're taking them from above, that's going to shorten the legs. It has to do with the perspective of the camera. So I would say my advice to you there would be to take pictures straight on if at all possible. And that means put the piece up higher and you get down lower, or use a tripod so that your camera is at the same height or level as your subject.
Deb, also, we had talked about, I think you and I had talked about how many pictures we take of one piece. I mean, we just don't snap the camera and we're happy. I think when I start taking pictures of one piece, I wind up with 100 pictures, and maybe out of that I might get 2. So
and that's extremely typical, and I think people, especially novices or amateurs that are just starting out, are put off by that. But the truth of the matter is, I think in the document that you'll get, there's a quote by Ansel Adams where he says that 12 pictures a year is a good year. So if this is a professional photographer who's happy with one picture a month that he takes. So that just goes to show you that they're taking all kinds of pictures. And I'll go, that's why I wanted to show that dryad in different settings throughout the yard, three different spots in the yard, and then in the garage, and in the screen porch, because I've got 5 places that I can go to take pictures. And given the lighting, like today is an overcast, cloudy day, people would say today wouldn't be a good day for pictures. Today's an awesome day for pictures because that overcast gives you a lot of light. There's a lot of what do they call it? Luminosity in the air, but no direct sunlight. You have to be careful when you're playing with direct sunlight. That's where with Wink, the pictures of him with the light across his chest, that's direct sunlight. But I also made it so that there was a shadow across his face, so it didn't wash out his face. So you're playing with dappled sunlight. This is the same piece taken against that background with the poster background. But the light from this one is absolutely coming from directly above, and I probably used my light bounce board to shine light up onto her face as well. Okay, here we'll talk about the nipple Nazi. That happened to Renata just 2 weeks ago, wasn't it, Adele, where she got kicked off Facebook because she showed nipples. Really, there's absolutely no, you don't have to show, we all know they're there. We know they're there. So if you've got a piece that's got body parts that probably are going to get you in trouble, there's a great way. You can just take it into, even if you don't have Photoshop, most of your photo editing programs have what they call blemish repair. Is that what it is? All you need to do is do blemish repair. Do you want to show the next slide, Adele? There it is. So she's got, yeah, so her nipples are not as obvious now because I used a little blemish repair and just concealed them a little bit. Also, you can see where I pulled her hair down and covered it up that way. So it's a little bit more shielded that way. There are ways that you can show your artwork and have it be tasteful and yet let your potential buyers know that the anatomy is there, everything is correct, everything is accurate, but you don't need to blare it out there for Facebook or eBay or Etsy or any of them to get angry at you because you're showing too much. We're supposed to be able to, we're on eBay. My friend Helen was moderator for a group there, and she fought and fought and fought to have nipples allowed to be shown in images for artwork. It's not real people, but it's artwork. And anyway, we got it so we could have 2 images with nipples, and the rest had to be covered. But I just don't. To avoid any sort of conflict or getting my auctions pulled. If you get your listings pulled because you've got nudity, you're losing money. It's going to cost you because you may have had potential buyers, you may have had people looking, you may have had watchers. You're going to lose all of that because you have to start over and you have to fix your pictures so they don't show that. So just do it in the first place.
Yeah. I agree, and I much rather either put the hair over it or put something instead of putting like some people do. They put pasties. These
right. That to me is trashy. That just sounds. It might as well be a stripper. with pasties.
Yes, exactly. I think it's just better just to accommodate. Either put the hair there or put a little something there. Like you said, everybody knows what they are, but Facebook has become very picky about that now, and even when they shut you down for 24 hours, and I don't care that you won't be able to fight it. You just got to have to take it down, and they'll be watching, so there's no sense in doing that.
Right. I wanted to include that just because it happened to Renata 2 weeks ago or whatever. Right, exactly. I just wanted to include that in this presentation because you can show how beautiful your artwork is without getting yourself in trouble. That's my point.
Right, exactly. I know, Deb, on the tips that we're going to be giving everybody, you might want to discuss some of this here now. insofar as you had mentioned that the camera needed to be at least 10 megapixel.
Well, the newer cameras are 12 and even up to 18 megapixel, and that's great. What that does, what that tells you is that you've got, is it 10 million megapixels per inch or something like that? So they're ridiculously high resolution cameras that we've got now. You don't need really super high resolution images to go online though. So when you're taking your pictures with your camera, my camera allows me to adjust down. So 12.1 is my top megapixel capability. I take my pictures at 5 megapixels, which is 5 million pixels per inch, and you can go down to 2.5. For internet, you don't need big files. In fact, you really can't use them because even though we've got much faster internet service now, back in the day when we had dial-up, if you put a picture up that had even even any kind of size to it at all, people couldn't open those images. They would want to look at your auction or they'd want to look at your images, and they couldn't even open it because there was too many megapixels for it to be transmitted. So what I recommend is that you take your pictures at about 5 megapixels size files. If you're going to be printing something like a poster, you're going to want the 10 or 12 or 18 megapixels because you need all of those pixels to be available for printing a poster that's, say, 36 inches wide. And our cameras are capable of doing that. And there are websites that will print your pictures at 36 inches size. So we want the capability, but we don't need it for we don't need it for online use. So for there, what I do is I take it 5 megapixels, but then I crop them down so they're no bigger than 800 by 1000. So basically that would be like taking a picture at 1 megapixel. But I take them at 5, crop out what I need at the 800 by 1000 megapixels. Same for you, Adele?
Yeah, I do the same thing. I don't use high resolution on the internet. Now, when it comes to printing, that's a different thing.
Of course. Yeah, when you're printing, like when you need pictures for the magazine, you always want those to be in real high resolution. So for that, you'd need 8, 10, 12 megapixels. That would be a great, because the files then are roughly about 6 megapixels each, aren't they, Adele? When you get a picture that's high resolution, it's about 6 megapixels.
It's around there, yes. And sometimes I get them higher, which is great, but it's overkill.
Yeah, right. Like 2.5 is almost the minimum that you can use, right?
Yes, that works really well. Yeah. Nona has a question. Yeah, she says, what if you have a sheer fabric and the slight nipple shows through?
Well, if you're talking about, that's fine, Nona. By the way, hi, Nona. That's fine, but if you want to show the artwork to a potential buyer, that's fine. But if you're listing it, all you need to do is use that blemish repair and click on the way mine works is I click right next to the blemish. In other words, the nipple, I click right next to it, pick up that part of the image and paste it onto the nipple. It'll take that sheer fabric and just put it over the nipple and help conceal it a little bit.
Yeah, it might be also if you're doing Photoshop, that is called, you can clone. They're cloning. You can clone that section. Yeah, you clone that section, you just drag it over, and it covers that a little bit.
I use the cloning to the. What's that?
It just kind of like it's there, but it's not.
Right. I use cloning, Adele, if I need to, like, say I brought her hair forward to cover up, and I didn't quite get enough hair. I'll use the clone tool to add more hair. But for a lot of people don't have Photoshop, but most of the photo editing programs do now have blemish repair. So like if someone's got like your kid, you took a picture and your 14-year-old's got a big old zit right here, you can just tap on that and it'll go away. The photo imaging or photo editing program will adjust for that. So you can do the same thing with helping to hide the nipples a little bit. Oh my gosh, yes, Lynn. I tell you what, I was going to mention that too, that the cameras in our phones these days are so fabulous, and the iPhone has a great camera, and yes, that is good enough. The problem with taking pictures with a cell phone, again, is moving. I mean, it's very, very hard to hold a cell phone still to get a great picture. You can do it, but it's hard to do, hard to get it, hard to hold it still. Now, I did take a piece of, in my photo, my photography class, I show how you can take a piece of 2-inch thick foam, the kind they put in your house when they're insulating your house, and use a razor knife to cut a little slit in that, just big enough to hold the bottom of your phone, and then you can set your phone in that slit and use that to hold the phone up and take pictures that way. So there's ways to work around it so that you can figure out ways to use your camera. And also, by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but your iPhone, if you've got earbuds, not AirBuds, but earbuds for your iPhone, you can use the volume switch on the earbuds to use as a remote to taking pictures for your iPhone. I don't know if you knew that or not. It's pretty cool.
The other thing that I know you wanted to mention was batteries. When you're out there taking pictures, as you know, it's good to have a backup battery.
I don't know if Sandy is here today, but poor Sandy up there in Seldovia, Alaska. If you are here, Sandy, hi. Sandy had one battery for her camera, and she would be busy taking pictures, and then she'd say, "Oh crap, my battery just went dead. I gotta wait. I gotta charge up my battery." I think it's like required equipment, if you ask me, to have extra batteries for your camera. I actually have 3. I've got the Lumix battery that it came with. If I was going to replace just that one battery, that battery alone is $70. But and that battery does last longer than the aftermarket or the generic batteries. But hey, when you're taking pictures and your battery is starting to go dead, you want to have your lighting is perfect and your battery's dead. I mean, seriously, that is not good. So you always want to have a backup battery charged and ready to go. So when your battery shows that it's running out, you can quick swap that battery out and you're back in business again. You don't want to lose that opportunity to have the perfect lighting.
You bet.
Especially when you're taking pictures outdoors.
Oh, I can't tell you, those have been lifesavers to me. I also have 2 extra batteries, Deb, especially when I'm out there, not close to anywhere where I can plug up and recharge my batteries. Let's see what else here. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to post. We're going to be sending you the PDF. I'll be posting that after the talk show. And it has a lot of information, tips, and some tricks that Deb has provided you in here. And there's some other things here too. Also links of where you can purchase some of these products. And we just want to let you know we're not affiliated with any of these people. These are just supplies that we personally used. I know Deb uses them. I have used them and still use them. And they're just great to have. And like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and they need to be taken properly. Let's see, there was something else, Deb, that you wanted to mention about, there was, let me see here, you had talked about, the gray background. Is it just the gray mat board, or do you suggest anything else?
Well, that's what I use. The gray, when I buy it, you can go to a frame shop and buy a 36 by 24 inch sheet. If you don't want to spend the money on that flow tone, the reason why I like that flow tone is because of the gradient in there. It gives the appearance of having the light is built into it. I mean, it makes the pictures very dynamic. But if you don't have that or don't want to spend that kind of money, you can just go buy, I think they're about $12, and it's a big sheet of matte board. And they're kind of rigid to start with, but you'll want to start kind of coaxing it. You don't want to bend it, but you want to kind of start rounding it so that you get that nice curve to it, so you can put it up against the wall and clamp it down like to a table or something, and use that as your photo background. You don't want to bend it. You don't want anything with a sharp fold in it. You want a nice curved, uninterrupted background when you take your pictures. Right. You don't want your background to fight with your picture or with your subject. You want your background to just blend in and disappear and just be there to complement the subject matter that you're taking pictures of. Right. Now, the opposite of that is going out in the woods. Like I said, I go out in the woods and I take pictures, but it's because that suits the piece. You know, if you're building a story or building a fantasy, you want to have the background suit the piece. That's why Thadia, the one that we just showed with the canvas background outdoors, she did not look good in the woods. She just didn't look good out there. But I wanted natural lighting for my pictures, and so I took the backdrop and took her outside and set that up so I could take pictures outdoors.
Well, the other thing I want to mention now that you're talking about the gray mat board, so I have seen people that have bought two mat boards and they butt them together at the bottom, and that is not what you want. You want a seamless background, and
Right.
curving that mat board and having that seamless background is what you're trying to achieve. And when Deb said you needed to curve it, that's the reason, is to have that seamless.
Right.
Seamless background. You don't want to have to be monkeying with it and trying to remove that line, because then it's really a mess and very time consuming.
Well, sure, right. And that, I don't know if you can bring back that picture, Adele. You've got that one picture of my portable backdrop.
Yeah, I'll get to it. Just gotta.
Right. I can't see the whole picture on my screen, but if you can see the bottom of that picture, you'll notice, and that was taken downstairs in my sewing area where the lights are fluorescent tube lighting. I actually can get some really good pictures downstairs sometimes too. And that's, it's really getting dark here. It must be going to rain. Let's see if this light.
I'm scrolling through all the pictures right now. I'm trying to get to that. You want to show the gray board, how you have it?
I'm going to turn this off again. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
The gray board, yeah, because you can see on the bottom, see how the light is reflecting on the curved part of the paper? The curved part of the paper has some light reflecting on it, and that just gives just enough bounce of light. It works sort of the same way as the bounce board does, by reflecting light up onto the figure. But by having that curved background like that, the curve in the paper, there's no interruption, there's no distraction, there's nothing that will distract from your subject. Robin's asking about material, and yeah, I was thinking of that when Adele was talking about the photo, the matte background. You can use fabric, Robin, but what happens is it yes, if it has any sort of texture to it at all, it's going to absorb light. But also what happens is it's hard to get it smooth. It's hard to get it really, really smooth. I have used fabric, yes. The blackout in the garage is black fabric, but it's also like a velour. So there is some absorption there. And I do sometimes have to adjust for the color to get the black right when I get it onto my computer. This is the flow tone background that she's showing right now. I love that background. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Well, I would like to talk about that you're doing.
Do you have a question, Adele?
I do. I always have questions. I want to talk about that you're offering the e-class now on your photography at A4 Artistic, so they can purchase that. It's an instant download file. So
right.
If they want to know more about let's see, apertures and a little bit more about settings, and I think that goes into greater depth, Deb, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, right. Well, you know, the your aperture settings are, this is what they're going to get in this document that I've got ready for them to go out. You know, this talks about the aperture settings here and shutter speeds, things like that. This is going to be in the free information, but this is also included in the photo class, and that's in more depth there. I'm just looking through my notes here. This document that we're going to be posting for you folks is 12 pages long, so I got a lot of stuff in there. Oh, one thing we were going to talk about too, Adele, was backing up your files.
You bet.
Oh my gosh, your camera can hold, what is it, like, I don't know, depending on how big the megapixels are, but let's say at 5 megapixels, your camera probably can hold 5,000 pictures. Well, who the heck wants to be sorting through 5,000 pictures all the time? So what's that?
It holds gazillion, and then you have to sort through all of that. Ugh.
They're all there, and they're all stored on that SD card inside your camera. My
Right.
suggestion to you is, excuse me, is every time you take pictures, go back to your computer, download your pictures, get them off of your camera, and then once you're sure that you have them, save them in a folder on your computer, and then delete them off of your camera. In other words, delete them off your SD card. Once you've got them on your computer, then you want to sort through them, and you can use a photo imaging software or whatever you need. Go through them, click through them, and delete, 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 delete. Get rid of the ones that you know you're not going to use. And then save just the best. And that might be, let's say you took 125 pictures, and for me that's not unusual. I can go out in the yard, I can shoot 200 pictures in a day, easy. And I'll come in the house and I'll start sorting through them, and I think, oh yeah, okay. And then I might even look at them and think, okay, now I know where the lighting was just right. I got to get back out there and take more pictures of different angles or different close-ups in that spot. In that spot in my yard right now today is the ideal spot. So I hurry back out, go grab more pictures, come back in, and then that evening then I can get busy and work on editing those images. So what I'll do is I'll put them in a folder on the computer, delete the ones I know I'm not going to use, and then I'll do the photo editing or do whatever needs to. And by photo editing, I mean, if there was a fly that flew through the picture, I'll get rid of him. If there's something in the picture that shouldn't be there, I'll edit that out. But then I crop them so that they are the right size for whatever place I'm going to be uploading them to, whether it's an auction or an Etsy, or Etsy says I think they want you to have your pictures around 800 by 1000. They like bigger size images on Etsy, which kind of surprised me. For eBay, they were a little bit smaller images. Depends on where they're going. If you're going to submit to a magazine, of course you want to keep larger files. But I crop them to the right size, get the subject in the center of the picture, just where I want it, and then take those images and put those in another folder so that I know, and I name the folder like Final Picks. Final Picks, that's the ones. Those are the ones I like. Then I back that up to an external hard drive. So I either put it on my external hard drive or put it on a flash drive, so that you've got a backup of those pictures so you never will lose them. Because you know what? That night could be electrical storm and your computer gets fried and you're done. You can try to take your computer, your fried dead computer, into some computer guru and hope he's going to get your pictures back. Why bother? Just go ahead and back them up that very same day to an external hard drive so you've got them and you know they're saved and protected. And that way you can go back to it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I back up all my photos. I learned that a long time ago, even my files.
And you learn it the hard way. If you ever have one computer failure, I had this computer that I've got the webcam on. This computer died on me. Just one day it just ups and died, and it's brand new. I've had it less than a year. And something happened in the updates, the Windows updates, and it didn't go through the way it should, and all of a sudden the computer was dead. And it kept asking me, do you want to go back to a restored version? And I went, yeah, give me anything. Well, it wouldn't even do that. So I had to have the hard drive replaced. And then I'm sitting there thinking, well, what did I have on that computer? I can't even remember. But this is my second computer. It's not my main computer, so I didn't lose too much.
Right.
But it happens.
So, Deb, I know that some are interested in where they can see more of your work. I know I have your website is one place, and also you just mentioned you have your Etsy store is back open now. I believe you told me today.
Right. I've got Etsy. I just listed, like, the Dryad is for sale on the Etsy site. I just put her on yesterday, so I was sorting through those pictures for that. And then I do sell on eBay every once in a while, but for ongoing sales, it's either my website or the Etsy site.
And it's Deb Wood Art, right?
Deb Wood Art, all one word. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that, Adele.
You're welcome. Also, you might want to tell the group, I'm sure a lot of them already know, but you might want to talk a little bit about the International Art Doll Registry site.
Sure. Yeah, well, International Art Doll Registry is in our 10th year, and we are a group of international artists worldwide, and we have bi-monthly shows where people can submit their artwork to the shows, and we have cash prizes for that. It's just a way of getting your work out there and showing who you are and what you do. And then we also have I have my newsletter that I send out once a month, and then I have tips and tricks that I post in the group, and then we have our Facebook pages. We have a public page and a private page where the group gets together and chats with stuff like that. But the main purpose of the International Art Dell Registry, what it was founded for, was so that people could enter their work onto the registry. It's a permanent record, and each piece of artwork is assigned a number, and it remains as part of the registry permanently. And that's a way to document your work and present it in a professional way on the internet.
That's right. Well, and also you have a lot of tips in there. You have some free tutorials, if I remember.
Oh gosh, we have a library of literally dozens. I think there's over 50 or 60 tutorials listed in our library, and along with other tutorials and stuff too. So there's videos and tutorials and PDFs.
Right. And the membership for that, Deb, how much is it?
It's $49 a year.
Okay.
Yeah, they can go to, it's, do you have the website for that? It's www international, yeah, there it is. Yeah, they can go to that and click on join, and all the information is there. There's also a fact section there too if you have questions about the group. There's a whole facts frequently asked questions page.
Right. Well, also when they get the file, the PDF file, all the links are there for them to click on for the International Art Dell Registry, your website, Etsy.
Right.
There's also the website link for A for Artistic for your photography. And also Deb is offering some other classes, and there's other e-classes that are there for you to do to purchase an instant download as well. So there's a lot going on in a lot of places you can go visit. Let's see, looks like you have a new member here that just joined. Elisa?
Oh, hi. Hi, Elisa. Hi, yes, she did. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and Carol is another one that I think recently joined too.
Carol Johansson just joined us too. Thank you, Carol, for saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I wanted, go ahead, Adele.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that one of the reasons why I started teaching classes online, Adele, was because of IADR and what was going on there. And this was what was around 2012, 2013 that I started teaching for you.
I believe so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was happening is that there was so many artists were getting their artwork out there, and they were trying to figure out, how to sell their artwork. And of course, that's our goal forever. All of us, we want to sell our artwork. I mean, that's why we do it. We do it for the joy of it, but we also want to sell it. The reason why I started teaching classes online was because I could see problems that people were having in the structure or anatomy or design of their figures, and I wanted to help with that. So IADR was my launching board for that, and then I came to A for Artistic, and we had classes there. Classes are also available at International Art Dell Registry too. But more to the point, excuse me, more to the point was the fact that people were, and this carries out into the photography side of it, is people were they were doing great artwork, but if their pictures weren't good or their anatomy was off, they can fix the anatomy and improve their skills. But then if their photography wasn't good, when you're selling your work online, the only thing that your buyers have to look at is your photography. You've got the piece in front of you, so you can see the piece and you can know that what you've done is good work. But if your pictures don't reflect that, you are not going to have as much success selling the artwork as you would if your pictures were great. Now, it's funny that I would be doing a talk show about photography, because I don't consider photography my strong suit at all. I consider sculpture my strong suit. I love doing my artwork. So when I can get a great picture of my piece, I feel like, oh my gosh, I've caught the world by the tail. So when I get a customer who's bought some of my artwork and then tells me that, Deb, your pictures are great, but your artwork is even better in person. I feel like what a compliment, because I think that photography is such a hard thing to get right. But if you've got great artwork, you have to get great photography, or your work is not going to be presented online as well as it should be, because that's all you've got. That's all your buyers have to look at is the photography. So you have to make sure that that's as top notch as you're fully capable of in order to present your work in the best light and maybe get those potential buyers.
Right.
After a while, you might have your reputation. Your reputation would supersede, and they know, even if your pictures aren't great that day, they know that your artwork is quality. But until they get to know you, they're not going to know that. And so that's why it's important to get the best pictures you can.
Yeah, you were so right about that, Deb. I also would like to talk about that, the importance of, and I know this is not in here, but I really would like to mention this, is about watermarking their images.
Okay.
It's super important when you're, especially if you're posting on social media. I can't tell you how many pictures I see out there with no watermarks. And that could be a disaster, and it doesn't take long. A lot of the figures or the artwork that's out there is very recognizable within our own community. But let's say it goes somewhere else, and they're trying to find out who the artist is. If there's not a watermark or some sort of indication on there, that's it. You're done. I mean,
right.
It's floating out there, and you know firsthand what happened to you.
You mean the class I was teaching in Venezuela?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that happened to me. And I want to say yesterday I put I think 4 or 5 pieces on Etsy, and I spent all afternoon watermarking every single image that I put on Etsy. And you don't think it's quite as important on sites like Etsy or places like that, or eBay. But what happens is that customers or people or just admirers will grab a picture of your artwork, and they'll save it. They'll screenshot it, or they'll save it to their computer, save image as, and they'll put it on their computer. Well, then they think, well, you know what? Excuse me. I really like that. I'm going to put it on my Pinterest page. Excuse me. So then they go ahead and they take your image and they put it on their Pinterest page because they like it. So it's their way of saving your artwork to their Pinterest interest pages. Okay, well then someone comes along and they like your picture on their Pinterest page, but it doesn't have your name on it, unless the person who posted it is kind enough to say artwork of Deb Wood, then that tag stays with the image. But if they don't do that, it's gone, and your image is out there. I can't tell you how many of my artwork pieces I've seen on Pinterest, and they don't have my name attached to them. I'm grateful when people do. I am, but it's not common.
Right. That's why, it all has to be together. It's just real important. And also, like you said, when they post it on Pinterest, and if there's no identification on there, it just floats around. And sometimes people do not put who the artist is. So I think
it's rare. It's rare that they do. Yeah, it's rare. So like Nicole West, you see Nicole West's work is all over on Pinterest, and bless her heart, I'm happy for her. And she's got such an unmistakable style that it's Nicole West's work. We, the art community, know it's Nicole West's work, but your average person out in the public isn't going to know who Nicole West is. And so unfortunately, she's losing valuable publicity by not having watermarked images, and very few people do. You can mention too, Adele, that I do it in Photoshop, but there are sites that there are apps, isn't it? There are apps or something that you can get where you can literally watermark without any trouble. I mean, I don't have one, but there must be something out there that people can get.
Yeah, there's free apps. If they go into their app store and just look for watermarking your images, and there's a zillion of them, and a lot of them are free. So it doesn't have to be something blatant that's across the chest of the piece. It just needs to be on the piece. We're not going to get into technical stuff, logo or signature, but just something needs to be on there.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be full. It can be at a low opacity. It could be just there, there but not there,
Right,
as long as
right,
it's visible and they can read it. So,
right. I have the watermark that I used yesterday. I took my signature. I wrote my signature on a piece of paper, and then
mhm,
I took a picture of it, or scanned it. I guess I scanned it, and I put that in Photoshop, and then added some of my elements like my logo fairy, and then my enchanted hearts, and a copyright symbol and the year. And I put
right.
that all in there on the watermark. And then I put it in, and I put it, and then I emboss it, and I stylize it, emboss it, and then I change it to hard light, which makes it invisible, but yet you can see the outline of it. So that's how I do my watermark.
Well, like I said, anything that they can get on there. I know people don't know a lot. There's many that don't know, but go to one of those apps. Like I said, there's a lot of free apps. Even if you just find a nice font to type your name in and put it in there with the date and the little copyright signal, you would be, that's it. That's fine. Just something. Well,
Right. What
Deb,
I did is I did my photograph of my signature, but then I also found a font that was close to my signature, and I used
mhm,
that for the other information. So the year and the copyright symbol and all that is with a font, but
mhm.
it kind of matches my handwriting, so it worked out. What were you going to say, Adele?
I just noticed that Carol posted. She said, "Yeah, she uses Watermarkey." Yeah, that was one of the ones that we had used when we were doing the group for sales and marketing. Watermarkey is a free app, and I believe you can purchase it as well if you want to do other things. But yeah, so Watermarkey is one of the ones that you can check out on the app. Does anybody else have any questions? We're just getting ready to wrap this up. Let's see. Lynn wants to know. Here's a question. That is the year of the piece. Okay.
I put the year, the copyright year that I put on the watermark, Lynn, is the year of the piece.
Right.
Yep. It's so hot here today, you guys, and now I see it's raining, so I'm really glad because it has just been beastly hot today. And I've got the fans going and the air conditioning going, and my papers are blowing all over the place here. So,
Well, Deb, thank you so much for this wonderful
are we
presentation.
done? Is it done? Are we over?
Yeah, oh yeah, dear. It's we've gone over our hour. We're just
Have we
chatting.
really? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were here, and thank you for this opportunity, Adele. And like
You're
I said,
welcome.
I don't consider photography my strong suit at all. But I just wanted to show the listeners and the viewers that there's clever ways of working around it. And by the way, I've got little point and shoot cameras too. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a camera. I mean, I've got a Nikon pocket camera that takes great pictures, and it was, I think, $100. So, you can use your cell phone. The camera in your cell phone is probably better than a lot of the cameras you can buy nowadays. And you can have a pocket camera. The thing that I noticed about the pocket cameras was the zoom or the macro settings were not as efficient as they are on the bigger cameras. You can spend $3,000 or $4,000 and buy yourself a DSLR camera, but to me, it isn't necessary, and it's a little overkill for what we need. So just try different things out. Borrow a camera from somebody. I used my brother's Nikon for a long time until I decided that I was going to invest and buy a decent 35 millimeter. So
Right.
there's just lots of things you can do and try. But my point of today's show was to show you the clever ways of getting great pictures and fooling your viewer into thinking you're somewhere where you're not. How about that?
Sounds pretty good. Yeah, you don't want to show them that you're standing there in your pajamas taking pictures.
Which I am, which is exactly what I'm doing.
I think we all are like that sometimes. We're running in there taking quick pictures. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. We appreciate your support, and we will be bringing more talk shows and hopefully giving you a lot more information that you can use to further your artistic journey. And if you have any questions, you can post them after the show if you like. If something comes to mind, you can post them, and Deb will see them, and she'll answer you back. And remember, there is a replay. If you didn't get to see the whole thing, don't worry. The replay will be up shortly thereafter we end the broadcast. Thank you again, and have a wonderful summer. I know it's been very hot in all areas.
Adele, can I take a minute and just say thank you to you too for, I know these programs are a lot of work for you, and I just want to thank you for the effort that you put in to make the artist to artist talk shows available to everybody, and to let us meet people and take a step inside their studios. And it's really nice, and it's just great of you to do this for us.
Thanks, Deb. It is, it's time consuming, but you know what? I really enjoy it because I feel like there was such a need for this. There was such a need to meet other artists and to have a little glimpse of their world, you know, and their
exactly.
studio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think it makes us a little bit closer.
And you can see my madness. You can see here, this is just one corner of my madness. It goes all around here. It's all around the whole room. So this is where I am.
Yeah, well, it's been wonderful having you, Deb, and like always, your information is stellar, and I know they're going to love the PDF when they get it. And just check out all the information that will be posted, and we look forward to seeing you guys again. And again, please feel free to comment. Deb will come in and answer. Let's see. Somebody's asking questions right now. I'll just post this. Kathleen just popped in here.
I love Picasa. I wish they still had it. Oh my gosh. They discontinued it and you can't get it anymore. And I love Picasa. I hope my computer never crashes that I have that on, because that's a great, yes. And they also have the blemish repair on that one.
They do.
So
they do.
I can't get that. That's a great program. Yeah. What's that?
I said I can't get that on Mac. I have to use my Photoshop and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Picasa's awesome.
Yeah. Renata just popped in here and said that
hi, Renata.
Yeah, she has a fancy Canon 1200D.
She does. She's got a great camera. Hi, sweetheart.
You have a great camera, Renata. I have a Canon too with all the lenses, but I tell you, it doesn't beat that little Panasonic one I have. So it's great seeing it.
I got you to be a convert, didn't I, Adele?
Yeah, well, you know what? Here's the thing. I keep the Panasonic in Florida and I have the Canon. You know, I live in 2 countries. So I keep the Canon here in Canada. And when I have to use my Canon and start changing lenses, I'm going, oh my God, I want my Panasonic. But
where that all started from was when I was at your house in Florida and I was using your Canon to do some work in progress pictures for a class I was going to be teaching. And I could not get that camera to cooperate with me. I would get one blurry shot, one clear shot, one blurry shot, one clear shot. And I was so frustrated with it. And I thought, God, I wish I had my camera here. And I didn't. And then the next time I was down there, I brought my camera and I did the same thing. And then you saw the results I got. And that's when you said, that's it, I'm buying that camera. So yeah, well, it's a great camera.
And the Canon camera, just to talk about that a bit, the Canon camera is a great camera. The only thing with Canon and changing the lenses is you have to really get your settings right there. You cannot, I mean, and there's a lot of areas that you have to go into to get all these settings. The Panasonic is just really, it's easy to use. And hauling around all the lenses to take all of that is really a job.
And that's heavy. They're heavy. It's a heavy camera.
It is very heavy. I was thinking, I know we're just talking about photography now, but when I went to Miami not too long ago, I was so grateful I had that Panasonic because I walked literally miles at that zoo in Miami, and I was just thinking I would have had to been changing lenses and really hauling that heavy camera, and it was just fabulous having Panasonic. It's very lightweight, and the zoom on that camera is unbelievable.
It is.
I love it.
And that's why I bought the camera in the first place. Was my 50 was because someone had posted pictures online. It must have been Facebook of, get this, a bird in a nest hatching her eggs. And I thought, how did she get that close? No, you can take close-up pictures from about I don't know what, two football fields away. It's crazy the close up that it's got.
Yeah. Well, I know that when I'm at the zoo, I can't get real close to those animals, so
No, of course not.
I am at a huge distance sometimes. But there's one thing I have to really watch. I have to um, more or less bury my elbows into my chest to get a steady picture, because now the lens is very extended out, and even if I breathe, it's going to move it.
Right.
So, but you know, photography is a lot of fun. So Debbie's in South Africa in her pajamas. Thanks for that, Debbie.
Yay! Good for you, Debbie. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go get my jammies on because I have to get to work. My neighbors get a kick out of me because they think, well, why are you up so late at night? I said, well, I wait till about 5 o'clock in the evening, and then I put my pajamas on, and then I go to work. So I work from 5 till about 2 in the morning.
Yeah, Renata's saying wow about the camera. Renata, there will be a link to that camera that I'll be that's in the information that I'll be posting, so you can go in there and check it out. Barbara Feltz wants to know about the camera we're talking about. Barbara, the PDF that we'll be posting, the information will be in there. That's the camera that Deb's holding up. It's a Lumix Panasonic. Is that what's the number on that one, Deb?
This one is a 200. My first one was the 50. This one is a 200. This one is about 5 years old, and you can still find them, but they're rare. It's hard to get this camera. So now there's an 80 and a 300 and a 1000. The 80 did not have the Leica lens, but I think the 300 did, and the 1000 for sure does. What these are considered is a bridge camera. It just means that everything is built in. It's like a DSLR, but you don't interchange the lenses. And when I turn this one on, and I can show you, I'll zoom the lens out, you can see this is the telephoto lens on it. So that's how far out it goes. It goes to a 2.8 f-stop, even at the farthest extension like this. And so it's got a great close-up. I don't use it very often, but like I said, when I'm out in the yard, I might be at right about here. I probably extended about like this, and this is what I'm taking. So I'm standing 10 to 15 feet away from my subject, and I'm zooming in. So, and yes, Adela's right. You have to hold the camera steady. I usually don't bring my tripod outside, so that's why I'm taking a lot of pictures. And I exhale as I take the picture, and I lock my elbows into my body, hoping that I'm holding it still enough. But if you really want that perfect, crisp, clean, sharp picture, a tripod is the way to go.
Right. So I think we pretty much answered everybody's questions. And again, thank you again for being here, and we look forward to bringing you more shows. So have a great
Thank you, Raquel.
You're welcome, Deb. Thanks for being here. Talk to you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay.